I am going to beat you into the living death.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walkout Network. I'm your man, Ant Walker, and this is the latest edition of the Living Death Show. Happy to say we actually have a guest this week. So you get tired of seeing the trio, and we've got somebody in here to mix it up. So this is his first time on the show. Very excited to bring him on here. This is Matt Hawkins. You know him as the co-host of the Coast to Coast Combat Hour with our man, Ed Carbajal, who you've seen on here a couple times. But fun fact, this man was once declared by HBO as the world's biggest MMA fan. So, Matt, how does it feel to take my title of high-level fan?
Oh, I don't know about that. That was 2015. So, I could only defend my title for a couple years. More than McGregor, but maybe not quite as much as Ant Walker.
Defend or vacate. Defend or vacate.
Hey, you still get title shots off that one. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like the Couture. I get a title shot when I come back, but I kind of pick and choose my opponents these days.
You're like a Diaz getting those pay-per-view headliners. I see you.
Hopefully I sell more tickets than him and Chimaev are doing right now. UFC really dropping the ball with that card. That arena, I looked at ticket sales before I got on the show here, and that there's more seats available than I've seen for a UFC pay-per-view in a long time.
Yeah. See, Matt is out here just claiming exactly why he's the high-level fan, because I don't do stuff like that. No. I'm not, and Matt does it. Beautiful, beautiful, man. Happy to have you on. So, of course, let's go ahead and introduce two gentlemen who need no introduction. You see them every week, but we love them so much, we do it every time. We got the jack of all trades who has mastered them all, the senior editor of SureDog.com, and the big homie, Ben Duffy. What's up, Ben?
I'm doing really well. I'm buzzing a little bit from a very fun UFC card, and then yesterday from having gone and covered Fury FC 70 or 67 here in person in my hometown. Good to see the friends there. Good to hand Mike the Truth Jackson, the homie, long overdue bottle of wine for services rendered. But I love Houston. I love Houston's music. I love Houston's fight scene. But you always leave a Fury event with "wanna be a baller" stuck in your head, and I just need to get it out.
All right. Well, we've got the man who anchors the panel every week with stats, the facts, the figures, and the numbers. He also has 20-inch rims on the Impala. My man, the associate editor of SureDog.com, Jay Petrie. How you doing, Jay?
I feel like I need to make a stat of the week 20 right now. I'm working on it. Man, I wish I had the luxury of being able to attend a live event this weekend like y'all did. But I enjoyed it from afar. I am even more enjoying my vacation that is to come, but I am thrilled to be here to talk fights with you, and I'm happy to have Hawk here. We had a lot of fun when I was on Coast to Coast. They brought me on to talk about some of the zaniness I've dealt with of Mazharov and all those other stories, and we started talking real deep dives. I'm like, oh, okay, I see we got something here. So Hawk, yeah, this is gonna be fun. Stat of the week. You want some fun? I can't lead off with the main event, but I'm leading off with the guy that deserves the recognition in GM3, Gerald Meerschaert. He has 10 finishes as a UFC middleweight. 10 finishes in 10 wins, obviously. And why is that significant? Anderson Silva only has 11. 10 is GM3's finish number, and he is right there, probably going to pass a record we didn't think would be passable. So 10's a stat of the week, man.
That is a hell of a stat, and a very unexpected one as well. Yeah. So, yeah, man, the name doesn't sound right next to Anderson Silva.
Exactly.
But look at that. They're in the same stratosphere. So, fellas, let's go ahead, and despite the fact that the stat of the week this time did not pay any homage to the main event, we've got to pay homage to that main event. Dominick Cruz finished in the 4th round via head kick, courtesy of Marlon Vera. What a great fight. Let's, before we get into the X's and O's of it, we got quite a logjam for contendership at 135. So Marlon Vera has made his way. Now I think Cruz came into this as the 8th seed, if I'm not mistaken, and Vera in the top 5. Where does he shoot up from this, or does it move him at all? And where do you place him? Like, what order do you want to see these contenders get their shot?
Well, I'll go real quick. I was at the event, so you know, I got a up close and personal view of you know, Vera's performance. I mean, he definitely jumps in the top 3 or 4 here. I don't think there's, you know, despite it being a lower ranked opponent, you know, the good thing about the division is you kind of got a little mini tournament going. So some of the, it's kind of by the end of the next month and a half or so, we're really going to shape out where half the division is going to be coming off a loss here. And then you're going to have obviously avoiding rematches. I don't think Vera gets the title shot immediately. Obviously, you got Sterling and Dillashaw. I think if Aldo picks up a win over Dvalishvili, you almost got to give it to Aldo. He's the higher ranked guy. He's kind of taking on a challenge here with a wrestler that, you know, is a little bit stylistically maybe not the best matchup for him. So that, you know, I kind of give him some kudos for that. I'd like to see Vera fight the loser of the Sterling Dillashaw fight. And then kind of just see how everything else unfolds, you know, with Sandhagen and Song as well. So, you know, if a couple of the upper guys lose, maybe Vera slides into a title shot. But I think he needs one more fight against perhaps the loser of the championship fight to really make that final step to the title fight.
I'll jump in, but first thing I want to say is it's so funny, something that Matt said, and I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just marveling that it's correct now. Because if 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you told me that a guy who is a great wrestler and a recklessly aggressive striker was a bad matchup for Jose Aldo, I would have laughed in your face. It's like, that's the kind of guy that Jose Aldo like eats for lunch, like, you know, without even needing to use a knife to cut it up. But obviously how times have changed. And I agree that it looks like rough sledding for him now. In terms of Vera, the head-to-head loss to Aldo is recent enough that I don't think he jumps Aldo. So I still think he's kind of probably sitting around that 5 spots because, you know, he lost to Aldo lost to Jan, you know, like it kind of plays out like that. Everyone at bantamweight is going to have to wait to see who comes out of Sterling versus Dillashaw as the champ, because if Sterling is still the champ, that's a problem for Jan. If Dillashaw wins, stuff's wide open.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I think the UFC would be silly not to try to make Dillashaw Aldo while they can. So if both those guys emerge with wins, I think that's the slam dunk. So yeah, Vera's likely to have a little bit of waiting, but he's likely to have some waiting anyway, because that fight isn't until October. So, you know, maybe he takes one of the other guys in this 5 or 6 man round robin while they wait for who's next after that. And maybe if he wins again, he's fighting for the title, you know, first quarter of next year.
I think it's very important for the UFC to have scheduled it the way they did, with Aldo Dvalishvili happening this coming weekend, and Cruz Vera just shaking out. I think that's big. And it's funny that this is the most conditional, situational title shotting you can get. Like, this is the if then hell. Like, if Sterling wins, then Jan is down, even though Jan is going to destroy Sean O'Malley, which that's a foregone conclusion. That isn't an if. That's my not if. He's still going to be, you know, stuck having to try and sell a third fight with a guy that he lost to twice officially. Even though, you know, you can talk about it. And TJ's the champ, it kind of, everything's wide open because he hasn't fought anybody basically at the top. He beat who did he just beat, or just kind of beat? Sandhagen, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just so close by Sandhagen to bump him out. But I would like to see the if then of if Merab wins, then Marlon Vera faces him for the title shot. But you can't do the Aldo rematch. That was so soon, and there's nothing that would change. You know, we know how this fight will play out. That's one of those rematches that you go, it's not the Moreno Figueiredo fight where you go, okay, something crazy might happen. You're going to see Aldo Vera play out like that every time. Like Deanna Bennett, Justin Kish, Bellator made this random rematch that I freaked out about last week. It played out exactly like it did the last time. Who would have thunk it? So yeah, I'm going with the if-thens, and if not, just do it like Rashad Evans did. Just wait. That won't hurt you, right, guys?
No, I'm a little shocked though. You're so surprised that O'Malley loses to Jan. I mean, you've seen enough to know that the UFC will quickly give. Yeah. If O'Malley pulls off that upset, all this gets thrown away.
They're
going to give him the title shot. Yeah.
But that's not happening.
I don't think it's going to happen either, but we know that he'll, even if he's ranked 9th, he'll still end up getting the title shot off that win.
Absolutely.
Deserve or not, whoever wins out of Sterling and Dillashaw isn't going to complain about that, because an O'Malley fight is the closest thing that the post-McGregor UFC has to Red Panty Night.
Yeah.
We think. We have no metrics to really value O'Malley as a seller, though. We know he has the online presence, but I don't know. We don't have anything. He hasn't. What is his biggest fights, like a co-main event?
Yeah, but I think just common sense tells you that's going to be a easier fight to promote than Marlon Vera.
Yeah.
You know, that's or you know, someone who can't speak English or something like that, like who doesn't have a championship history behind them,
like Nate Landwehr.
Yeah, like you're gonna have
translator that boy.
Yeah, like you're not gonna sell a whole lot like that. So if you're a champion, and you're getting pay-per-view points, you want the guy who's got the flashy hair, who does all the spin kicks, who's in front of a microphone and a camera, a lot of times to his detriment, because people are going to be watching. So as long as he doesn't try heroin before the fight, then we're all good.
50-50.
All right, so
hold on. I want to ask Matt something now that I'm thinking about it. So you were in the building, obviously, in the Pachanga Arena.
I was going to ask, huh?
Well, you were going to ask him.
No, go ahead, man. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you, when Nate Landwehr did his post-fight interview, did you understand a word of it?
No. I brought my sister, who hadn't been to many fights. You know, she's been to some of the bigger ones. I bring her out every couple of years because she's, you know, supported my hobby around this. And she's going, "What the hell did that dude say?" And I just go, "He's a redneck from Tennessee." I thought he had his mouthpiece in. It wasn't until I got home and rewatched it, and I go, "Holy shit, he didn't even have his mouthpiece in." So what was it? It was something about calling out Billy Q and then whatever. But holy shit, what a fight! I mean, I've been to, you know, that was my 60th live UFC event. I was there for MacDonald, Lawler too. And that was always, you know, that's always the biggest fight. It was a title fight. It was on a huge card. But for a fight night event, holy shit, man, I got to give props to the fans of San Diego, my hometown. That arena was popping off, and I know you had a good start to the night with some crazy KOs after the first fight draw. But I hadn't been in an arena that was just so electric. And you know, you had Cruz, the hometown boy, and then you had Vera, who, you know, he's not Mexican, but you know, obviously San Diego brings that crowd, you know, and the card was loaded with fighters coming up from Mexico and Tijuana and stuff. So everybody was just into it the whole night. And that co-main event, I mean, that was as wild of a fight as I've ever seen. I haven't had a chance to watch the whole thing on tape since it happened, so I was curious kind of how it aired over TV. But I mean, it was like Diaz Daily round one, just nonstop for like 15 minutes. I mean, I was at that fight too at Strikeforce years ago, and that's kind of, and it was in San Diego also. So it was kind of the same kind of thing. It was just like the arena's popping. I mean, they're stomping on the ground. You got cheers going. It was a cool atmosphere for a fight night, and you know, for one that didn't have the biggest loaded card name wise, the fans came out, sold out the Pachanga Arena, and I mean, I'm still in awe of that co-main event. I don't know how, you know, I guess it's smaller guys, they're able to be durable. You know, it wasn't the light heavyweights or even the welterweights, but holy shit, man. I don't know if I've seen a fight where two guys beat the hell out of each other, and there was so many turns back and forth in a 3-round fight.
So Matt, while we're on the topic of excitement, it being in the fight, perhaps this is going to be a biased question for you because last weekend was in your hometown, and but we just got off of a fight night card that featured all finishes. Was that one more exciting than what we had last weekend with some close, exciting fights, or just all finishes? Which was your preference?
Well, when I go to fights, I just need the fights to be good enough to keep me into it, make me feel like I've my money was worth it. I don't expect, you know, a barn burner after barn burner. You've been to enough of these, you know that's not going to happen. So I just expect the fights to keep me intrigued. Don't let me fall asleep in my seat. When I'm at home watching, like, the fights need to be more exciting, especially on a fight night where it's not the biggest names in the world. So, I mean, for me, it's always about the live atmosphere. Hundreds of, you know, about 250 MMA events in my life. Just that's what gets my blood flowing is hearing the crowd, seeing the fans of both sides kind of, going at it in a, non-violent way in the crowd, and it just being a fun back and forth, a little bit of shit talk here and there. So for me, it's always going to come down to the live show. And the when you're in the Apex and stuff, you don't have that crowd. You don't have the atmosphere. I know they have a little bit of a crowd now, but when that arena's popping, for me to be there, I can't compare anything to it. I tell everybody, if you've never been to a UFC, you got to do it at least once in your life. If you're a huge fight fan, to be there for the walk, to hear the music come popping on, to hear the Who, Baba Riley kick the show off. So that for me, that's it. The live crowd's always going to be more exciting than what I see on TV. But I do need more exciting fights while I'm sitting on my couch to keep me it locked in, as opposed to being in the crowd, if that makes sense to you.
I mean, the crowd was chanting for a Scouser. San Diego zone was cheering Paddy the Paddy. That was very loud on the broadcast, but that made it. There was not a what are they saying? No, we knew exactly what was happening. We're very confused, by the way, when it was just like it was during the Martin Boudet Lucas Brzezinski fight. The fight was what it was. And the fans,
it was a great time to start chanting something else.
The fans could not have cared at all about the fight was going on. They're all about this svelte young man.
Yeah, it was. He got the huge pop coming in. He's been around San Diego a little bit now. He threw out the first pitch at the Padre game a couple weeks ago. I don't know if he's kind of
Darren too.
She did that the other day too. They played that video in the arena. So he's kind of picked up a little bit of a local following. I don't know if he's just hanging around town or what, but I mean, he's got it. I mean, you talk about O'Malley being kind of the McGregor fight. I don't know if Batty will win enough fights to, get to that level where he can kind of have that title fight and really have that huge pay-per-view. But the fans love him, man. And, I'm not a huge fan of the modern day McGregor. I like the McGregor coming up. So I like where Paddy's at right now. As long as he doesn't break laws and slap people around and, turn into a total asshole, I'm good with where he's at, and I think it's fun and a cool aspect of what he brings to the fight game.
Yeah, your mind is going to change when you see that Roadhouse remake. I'll tell you what. Ooh. All right. So guys, let's go ahead and show a little bit of love to the X's and O's briefly here. Vera Cruz was an interesting dynamic. We talked last week in great detail about how Marlon Vera does well against guys who fight like Cruz. A lot of footwork, not necessarily a lot of power in their strikes, but we saw a different dynamic. To at least for portions of the fight, like Cruz came out a lot more aggressively. He sat on a lot of punches. Granted, the power wasn't quite what you'd like in some of those scenarios, but he fought like a different man. But at the end of the day, it just kind of didn't matter. What did you think about the strategy of Dominick Cruz? Is he just a little bit too late trying to employ this sort of game plan?
I loved it.
Yeah,
he's he has a prickly personality, obviously, but you get past that, he is one of the smartest fighters in MMA history. He's on the very short list of fighters who have made the most intelligent and effective adjustments to age and injury to keep themselves top fighters. You throw him in there, there's Shogun, Arlovsky, maybe Overeem. That's the end of the list, and you can argue that Cruz is on top of it. His physical gifts have changed, at least, if not abandoned him to such an extent compared to what he was in 2009, 2010. Yeah, I mean, he sits down in his punches more now, I think, because there's less of that bouncy movement. It's just not as effective. He can't do it as well or as long. And the unintended side effect of that is a little more of his natural power comes out. He, in all of his fights since this most recent return, like the Kenny Munoz, this fight, he has stung all of his opponents. He hasn't knocked them all down, hasn't rocked them badly, but there's a moment in the first 3 minutes of each of these fights where the guy's like, oh, I thought Cruz couldn't hit hard. And it changes the dynamic of the fight, win or lose. I don't think he's going to be a champ again. I don't think he's going to fight for a title again. But if he wants to, he's found an approach that's going to let him continue to compete effectively for a couple more years, or at least until, he blows another seal or gasket.
they're going to have to be real careful if they do decide to keep Dominick Cruz rolling in the division the way they have, because this is a tough division full of a lot of fighters that would, frankly, I think they would take him right now. I can't go so far as just, I was impressed by Cruz's performance. He was in the fight. I think he was winning the first 2 rounds on all 3 scorecards. So that means he was up 2-1 going to the 4th round. And he looked shades of his vintage self, shades of it. But there was a couple issues. Yeah, I'm just some big goofball sitting in my recliner. But Ben, you're clearly wanting to say something. What's up?
Why there got to be a 4th round? Take him out of main events.
That's it's funny. One of the things I said while watching the broadcast, since I wasn't covering the play-by-play because I was covering PFL earlier that day, was he would have won this fight. Yeah, I know that PFL was something. That he would have won this fight if it was 3 rounds. Oh, it's over. And it would have probably played out the way it did, and he would have won the fight. He would have Vera would have come back in the 3rd, but it wouldn't have been enough. But there were a couple things he was doing that, again, armchair quarterbacking. In the 2nd round, there was a blitz that Vera was finally starting to figure out his timing a little bit, and he charges towards him, and Cruz ducks away to the right, down and out. I said, that is a terrible thing to do with a guy that's fast as Vera, that he's going to make him pay. And the 4th round, he ducked to the side like that and got his nose Olaf Alonso. So it was really, kind of a telling situation. Yeah, he got Olaf. There ain't no 2 shades about it. It wasn't Arlovsky. It wasn't parried. It wasn't Alves. That was Olaf. That was all over. Cruz has been hittable. And that is the antithesis of Dominick Cruz. He has been hittable. He has been dropped in like 3 or I think it's like 4 of his last 5 or 3 of his last 4 fights. And that is a never did that happen. You could not catch Dominick Cruz cleanly. I don't think he had been dropped as a WEC fighter or a UFC fighter until Cody Garbrandt. And since then, he's been knocked down at least once in every one of his fights. I don't think Kenny dropped him, but there were moments that were like, oh, he stung him, and that kind of was telling. So Cruz was more hittable, and he would do something where he'd move, and then he'd stop for a second, which that is an un-Cruz thing. Cruz is a flow state guy. So anytime he stopped, you could see Vera pick, he went click, and then he'd strike, and he hit him and knocked him down twice in the 2nd round, the 4th round. As a result, he really finally got that. So, man, Cruz can't fight heavy hitters. He can't fight. I don't want to see him fight Rob Font even. I want to see him fight
Frankie Edgar.
Frankie.
I want to see him fight Frankie, double retired. No, I mean, a little aside, we at Sherdog for, I don't know, maybe since he was a WEC fighter, have had Dominick Cruz's birthday marked as September 3rd, 1985. He was actually born March 9th, 9339. And this was in the database since forever. So he's actually 37 years old and not 36 going on 37, which is, 6 months is a difference, but he's 37. And I love watching him fight, but you put him up against Corey Sandhagen, bad things are going to happen to Dominick Cruz in round 3. I'd like to see him keep fighting, but I would like to see, I always talk about like there's like zigzag matchmaking to get a guy up there. Zigzag Dominic, he earned that. Put him against Frankie, put him against, I don't know, Aldo if he loses, and kind of that kind of stuff. I don't want to see him fight Dillashaw again. I don't want to see him fight Rampont or Peter Yan.
Yeah, I agree, man. It seems like he just couldn't. It was like he just couldn't pull the trigger at certain moments. And I think for a lot of other fighters, it wouldn't be as apparent, but it was very apparent for his standard. Like there were a couple of points where he slipped certain punches from Vera, and normally he slips a punch, he's hitting you back with something, or he's circling out. He's going to do something. That's a very good point. Yeah, but there were a couple times like he's standing almost flat-footed in front of Vera. He slips out of a punch, and then he just stays there. And that gave Vera enough time to reset and figure out something else, or they just started their exchange over again, as opposed to him capitalizing right then. Like the old Dominick Cruz would have hit a knee tap, at that point, or would have done one of those wild looping overhands and then spun her out and ended up behind him or something like that. That version of Cruz wasn't there. And without that version of Cruz, who is he? Because he clearly doesn't have the power to stand there flat-footed completely and just trade with you. He doesn't have the chin for it now either, as we saw him getting dropped multiple times. And Jay, you pointed out that this is something that's happened a lot in his more recent fights. So you got to match him in a way that's befitting of a legend with an interesting style. And Frankie Edgar is another legend with an interesting style that, a pound for pound fight that we wanted to see years ago. Let's put it together now. I think that's the only way to go if we're trying to protect the legacy of both men or just give fans the best quality fight that we can witness. So any other thoughts on strategy wise for either Vera or Cruz in that main event? All right, well, let's move on here because a lot of prospects on this card, not exactly a card filled with name value, but we had some interesting prospects there. Which one stood out the most to you? Who made the biggest statement this weekend?
I give props to, it's not a prospect. I know that's what you're looking for, but I got to give Angela Hill some credit. I covered events that she did when she had her little title run in Invicta. She kind of made her resurgence. And I didn't think she had a chance in hell of winning this fight. And the way it started off, she was getting beat up. She was like a 3-1 underdog. But in her hometown, she gritted up kind of after that first round and kind of did her thing and was able to pick up a big win. So, I mean, it doesn't really do anything for her career. I mean, I don't think we're going to see her ascend the ladder or anything like that to become a top contender. But I just got to give her credit for, taking a fight late notice. I know this fight was scheduled for a month or so from now, but to just step up and in front of her home crowd, a lot of people sitting around me were her teammates and stuff. And I just got to give her credit. She could have easily folded the tent and could have left her gloves in the ring too there, and it probably wouldn't have been a big deal, but she stepped up and picked up a big win for her. So props to Angela Hill on that one.
It's so funny. I was going to riff on Angela Hill just as a gag, like, well, yeah, here's our young prospect that she's, 37 and counting. But
any opportunity to praise Angela Hill is always welcome on this platform.
No, we stand Angela Hill on this show. I mean, Absolutely. She comes from the same neck of the woods that Ant and I, we both grew up in Maryland, same as her. And I have been one of the last people to jump off the Angela Hill train competitively. Like I've picked wrong in basically all of this losing streak that she's coming off of, just giving her too much of a chance to win. I was happy to see her get the win as a huge underdog over Godinez, but Godinez handed this to her on a silver platter. Like there was only one approach Godinez could take to this fight that would give Hill that good a chance to win, and she took it. Like maybe the best wrestler in the division just turned into a girl wrestler. Like she used to stand out for being someone who actually shot takedowns from the outside, like a college wrestler does, and just turned into like the body lock, headlock, clinch, takedown artist, and Hill chewed her up. I said on the Sure Dog recap, Angela Hill at this point is like a wood chipper. A wood chipper can kill you, but if it does, it's probably your fucking fault. Like you have to run straight at it with no plan, which is kind of what Godinez did. But fair play to Angela Hill. She probably kept her job. Anything that keeps one of the coolest cats in all of mixed martial arts on the biggest stage is a win in my book.
Yeah, Absolutely. I mean, you said it perfectly on your recap show that, well, yes, this buys Angela Hill 3 more fights. Because
and hopefully they don't do what they do to her every other time she wins a fight, which immediately throw her another top 5 fighter.
They will.
Clearly it's time for Angela Hill to fight Weili Zhang. That's what they normally do in terms of matchmaking anytime she wins. But yeah,
we're gonna see her fight Yan Jianan or something like that. Something just like, why? What are we? Do you hate her or something? God, I feel like I need to actually say a prospect just to kind of to save this grace. I've seen Yasmin Horigi. It's very difficult for me to try and navigate that name. I'm good with them. She's a youngster, 23 years old, out of Entram over in Mexico. I saw her in Combach, and then I saw her in UWC, which was one of my favorite odd instances is that she won in UWC a fight card called Friday the 13th because she butchered a girl so badly the doctor had to stop the fight. It's those kind of little things that like, okay, all right. And to see her do the thing, I mean, that whole one night tournament, I don't want to get into the specifics because there were some oddities there about, 5-minute fights is what the first 2 rounds were to get there and the whole weird stuff like that. But when she got out there and was firing and was fast and was beating, I mean, we knew it was going to be a speed versus power thing. Like we knew that Lucindo is a more hooks compared to Jorge is a straight, that there was that style clash. And they delivered in a way that even I didn't see coming. I thought it was going to be one-way traffic. I thought she was going to beat Yasmin to the punch. Yes, I know. I thought she was going to outwork. Yasmin was going to be faster than Yasmin, and it was going to be a tough situation. And Yasmin was probably going to win by a clear-cut decision. And Yasmin won a very close and interesting fight where there were moments, and I very much appreciated that. I'm looking forward to seeing when they match her up with Angela Hill next or something.
I got to give a shout out to Tyson Nam. I don't know if he's like quite qualifies.
Our prospect range has a 37-year-old and a 38-year-old.
Let's do it. I love it.
I mean, it's the moment. Like, first of all, he's a guy who was pegged to be a lot bigger than he. Oh, there it is. I think my mic got unplugged for a second. Sorry, but I think it's also pretty cool that he got this spectacular knockout as Daniel Cormier is like ripping into his performance.
It my heart.
It could have been any more perfectly timed. Like there's not enough information going on here for Cormier to just yell, "Oh, he's losing," and then he just snatches Ode out the sky with that right hand.
That is a fight to go back and watch, Hawk. That commentary was absolutely just.
It's almost as if Dominick Cruz was like, "Look, I got to work my other job tonight, so you're gonna have to make yourself look stupid tonight, Daniel."
or like he slipped Bisbing $50 and was like, "Please embarrass this man." Oh wow. All right. Any other thoughts on quote unquote prospects before we keep things pushing here?
Absolutely. Since we have a 37-year-old and a 38-year-old in our prospect section, I'm going to name a 31-year-old who lost. Charlie Ontiveros went 0-3 in the UFC. He is 0-3 with 3 TKO losses, 1 in the second round, the other 2 in the first round. But here's this man, and this is how much I love Charlie Ontiveros. He goes out. He's 0-2 in the UFC. He knows he's probably fighting for his job. It is a do-or-die situation. He is fighting a tough veteran in Gabe Benitez. What does Charlie Ontiveros do? He runs out and throws a goddamn axe kick in the first 5 seconds. This man has no chill. He is and the fan who only watches fights at the top level, at the UFC level, will never understand the awesomeness of this guy. Charlie Ontiveros has delivered 2 of the scariest knockouts I have ever witnessed in person at any level of the sport. And he just doesn't know any other way to fight. It's an insult to say this guy goes out on the shield. He doesn't have a shield. He has machetes in both hands and strapped to his feet, and he's running at you. I hope that Charlie Ontiveros gets another fight, but if not, he's welcome to come back on down to Houston and depopulate this town.
I mean, he damn near killed the guy in the cage. Remember Clovis Hancock?
Yeah.
All right.
It's an actual entry in the Fight Finder database called TKO Heart Stopped. I'm not making that up. He damn near killed the guy.
Jesus. All right.
Clovis is okay, but yeah.
Man, we got morbid real quick.
That's a very Houston like way to put it too. He okay.
Yeah.
He cool.
Well, after that taste of happiness, let's move things on to quick hits here. I'm going to put 10 seconds on the clock, put a little extra pressure on you mofos. And let's ask Matt the first question of quick hits today. And of course, as soon as I say that, then I mess up the timer. All right, here we go. All right, Matt. So does Azamat Murzakanov have what it takes to crack into the top 15 at 205, or has he done that already?
I think he fits in about number 15. I think he's competitive up to about Ryan Spann level at this point. Maybe 12, 15 range. Anything after that, I think his size is going to be an issue.
All right. Not bad at all. Okay, so Jay, let's ask for more perspective on prospects. Which losing fighter is the bigger bust from a career perspective at UFC San Diego?
Oh man, you look at some fighters and go, what could have been? I think the ultimate what could have been is Ariane Lipski, based on her KSW run to what she's done now. It is just sad to see.
All right. Okay, so Ben, where does Goichi Yama, you know him, you know who he is.
Yamauchi.
Yeah, there we go. That guy. Where does him knocking out Neiman Grayson, where does that rank as far as surprise finishes for the year?
I'm mildly surprised that he got the finish, but I expected him to win a kickboxing match between two high-level grapplers deciding that the floor was lava. So I was just kind of surprised that his power carried up.
All right. Okay, Jay.
Let me ask you one. I'd like to ask you a question because I think it's only fair. Uriah Hall is stepping away. This is the words he used from the sport and signaled his retirement from MMA. 38 years young. Will this stick, or are we going to see him doing something soon?
He'll be back by the end of the year. I don't believe this one at all. Like, I'd like to believe him, but no. He's the case study of coming back.
Nice respect for the clock there.
Oh, I mean, I'm looking at it, so it's an unfair advantage, but I'll go ahead and take it. I'm like Jake Paul at the negotiating table.
Well, then let me ask you that very quick follow-up question then. Thinking about, you're saying he's going to come back. What's he going to come back and do? UFC? MMA? Or does he go play over in BK? Does he go do karate combat?
I think karate combat makes the most sense for him. Like BK isn't it, because like his whole thing is kicks and the high flying style. Like unless he does like Raymond Daniels, 820 spinning punches or somebody.
Can't do spinning punches in BK, but yes.
You can't. Yeah. So no, that's not happening. But karate combat is the perfect place, and they're actually putting like more money into promoting things. They're going out getting guys like Raymond Daniels, like guys who belong in that sort of thing instead of MMA. Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world for him to be there. And what style of karate is he a black belt in? Is it Shotokan?
I want to say Shotokan, just off the top of my head. That's what it sounds, I feel like.
Yeah, because like the bare minimum requirement in karate combat, you got to have a black belt in some style of karate, and they kind of don't give a damn about what else you do. But he's a
Tiger Shulman guy, so yeah,
Kyokushin, yeah, that makes sense.
Kyokushin. Oh, okay, yeah. So that dude is karate combat bound. I'm absolutely certain of it.
He needs to walk out to How Could I Just Kill a Man? Because that's what he's going to do. Promotion.
He's either going to do that, or he's going to ask himself, is it possible in his psyche to do that?
Yeah, he's going to lose it. Are you kidding? He's going to drop a split decision, guys. You know what's going to happen. He's going to lay an egg.
Yeah.
And I am all for it.
Are the days over of us talking to guys going to Japan and soccer kicking fools? I would love to see Rizin get back to where we start getting some American fighters going over there.
They need more 185ers, but I love it. We get back to putting people up against talk show hosts and stuff. I don't even care anymore. I just think that's for the entertainment factor for these guys. That was always kind of the fallback before. Was like, hey, let them go soccer kick some people and create a career, become the Godzilla character kind of Japan and stuff. You go out there and hurt. I hate to say hurt some people, but you put out some violent knockouts in Japan. I always thought that was kind of a way to get famous over there, but we just don't really talk about it anymore. It seems like the pandemic really knocked off any momentum Rizin had as far as international talent getting out there. It's because they keep spending money on Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, I mean, he would be. Uriah Hall would be a perfect fit for like a New Year's show in Rizin. It really doesn't matter who you put him up against, as long as it's somebody who's not going to try to grab his legs and drag him to the ground like that. Why am I forgetting his name right now? Fought in the UFC, went over to Japan, had some Rizin fights. Karate stylist from Detroit.
Darren Cruikshank.
Cruikshank, yeah. Like he could be the middleweight version of Cruikshank.
With that mustache,
If he goes over there, he's going to end up fighting Lorenz Larkin on loan from Bellator, and that is a fucking banger.
Okay.
Why hasn't this happened already?
I'm in. Let's do it. Let's go.
This is supposed to happen. This is destined. Karate combat or Lorenz Larkin in Bellator or Rizin, preferably Rizin, so we can see the potential soccer kicks.
Definitely Rizin. No. Rizin in a cage, because they're doing that now.
white cage, white gloves, blood.
It's not the dream style, but it does allow stomps and soccer kicks in a cage.
Okay, well, we'll get the blood the old-fashioned way. All right, so let's go ahead and put a minute on the clock, and we're going to discuss another retirement that came about this weekend. So, Rory MacDonald retiring after his knockout loss to Delano Taylor at PFL. Are you buying it? If you are, what is the way you'll remember how will you remember Rory MacDonald? And let's see. Now, of course, I forgot the prep time because I always put prep time because I use this minute timer for doing certain things in the gym. And I always forget to take it off before the show. So now
I'll start. This is going to be, he's going to be the ultimate yo-yo fighter of retirements. He's already done it, but he's already retired before. I don't see this lasting. I see him getting the itch within another year. So I'm not buying it. And I remember him as a great action fighter, but we're going to see him again. Go.
Yeah, I think in the long run, he's a Hall of Fame fighter. Will be kind of known as one of the first people to come up as a child that did MMA from birth kind of on. That's how I always kind of look at him. Got thrown to the wolves early. Diaz, Condit in his first few UFC fights. Put on the most legendary fight I ever witnessed in person. Hall of Famer for me. Saw him win the Bellator title, cage side. I don't know what he's gonna do. He's a little different personality. So, but with the money being thrown around by some of these promotions, Triller and all this other crap, it's hard to believe that somebody doesn't throw a lot of money at him.
Yeah, we're gonna keep talking. Go ahead, Ben.
I believe the retirement, at least I believe that he believes it because he has so obviously not been sure whether he wants to fight from one 6-month block to the next for years. Just literally saying like 2 years ago, I don't know if violence is congruent with my Christian faith. 6 months later, I'm ready to kick some fucking ass for Jesus. I mean, I don't think he said for Jesus, but without conflicting with my faith in Jesus, he's conflicted. And if not for the PFL dollars, I think he might already have been retired. Like he might be ambivalent about fighting, but you don't come out of ambivalence for what the UFC would have offered him or what the Bellator would have offered him after he kind of fizzled. I think it took the promise of the PFL dollars to even keep him in the game this long. So I do believe it. And as far as how I'll remember him, he's a Hall of very good guy to me. He's been in some legendary fights, but he lost his best fights against his best opponents. He's a Hall of Famer in the sense that Stephan Bonner is. He's on the losing end of one of the greatest fights ever.
Yeah, I'm feeling more toward Ben's analysis of this. Like, I think he's going to be a guy who's going to be remembered as the bridesmaid. Who was, but I think if we do a deep dive, then he is a kind of an historic figure in the sport simply because he was one of the first true pure mixed martial artists. That we had so many guys coming from wrestling or coming from karate or boxing or whatever individual discipline and adding everything else. This was a guy who his only martial arts training was exclusively in an MMA gym. So that marks an era in the sport. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't capitalize on it the way his peers like George St. Pierre thought he would. And not really no fault of his own. He was thrown in the deep end rather quickly when we look back on how young he was when he was fighting Carlos Condit and having prominent spots on major cards. So I think this retirement is going to stick because like he's not a guy who's going to be able to command top dollar at a regular promotion. And if he does come back, it's going to be either one of those Triller fights, like a Paul brother opponent or something bizarre like that. That's like a one-off, a boatload of money in comparison to what you can get on the rest of the free market, or he's down really bad and he's fighting anywhere. Like if we see him fighting anywhere other than one of those weird like freak show things, he's down bad. Like he's down bad and he's gonna like go to confession and be like extra earnest or something when it's all over with. So I don't know. But we definitely got the Rory MacDonald that is the true like pious man and nice guy, as opposed to protesting outside the abortion clinic like last week, what I thought. So anyway, let's Let's keep things pushing.
No megaphone, Rory. There was
no megaphone. No megaphone. That is what's a dangerous thing. Dangerous thing. See a Christian with a megaphone. Yeah.
Any Diego the Dream and not Diego the Nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something else. All right, fellas.
Diego the little box. Diego.
All right, so now we got a few minutes here. Let's talk very, very briefly about PFL. Featherweight and women's lightweight playoffs are coming in London this Saturday. Chris Wade versus Brandon Loughnane, Rogelio Couto versus Bubba Jenkins for the lightweight for the men's. Tell me, or featherweight for the men, sorry. Who comes out in the finals?
I mean, Bubba Jenkins is going to wrestle his way and do what Bubba Jenkins does. And when it comes to the other end, Chris Wade might do the same thing. Like Chris Wade, I mean, he has found power, I guess that's the word. And sometimes the gritty grapplers like to fall in love with that after they head kick a guy, and then be like, oh, I can do that. And they might, go to the well too many times and just not do it very well. I'm expecting a Chris Wade, Bubba Jenkins 5 full rounds, getting our money's worth finals there.
I agree with that. I just, PFL, we've talked about it with Ed Carvajal, my co-host. We've talked about over the season that they've kind of lost the momentum that they had with us, not knowing what night the fights are on. I mean, the hardcore fans pay attention to it, but the promotion, the switcheroo with the visas and countries, and I've lost kind of interest in it. Even the fighters that are fighting now, no disrespect to those guys, but I feel like we're kind of, it's a step low. It's like UFC prelim tournament at this point, and I just. It's when you lose the McDonald's and the Coopers and some of the bigger names they have, you lose some momentum when you, especially when you're on ESPN and stuff. It's hard to get somebody to stay in on a Friday night and watch some of these fights, if I'm being honest.
I mean, you clearly don't appreciate having the strike speed flashing constantly on the screen. How dare you, sir? How dare you? Ben, please just talk me off a ledge here. Matt's enraged me with his disrespect to the smart cage.
I still believe that you can't call it a smart cage anymore once you've put Jeremy Stevens into it on purpose. This is the best of what PFL has left on display. I mean, it has the marquee star to whom they've anchored everything in Kayla Harrison. I do like the story of Chris Wade. He is low-key one of the more successful fighters that the UFC let go off a win. I mean, he's made the playoffs 3 straight years in PFL and actually got over the hump. Because if you asked me in 2019, I'm like, this dude is going to be parked behind Lance Palmer forever, and we're going to all hate it because Lance Palmer has the most ironic nickname in all of mixed martial arts. Like, his fights are not a party. But he got past it. And if he can get past Lance Palmer's wrestling, maybe he's got something for Bubba Jenkins in that final. I agree with Jay that that's probably the final we're going to see. And I would have not even bothered to tune into that a couple of years ago, but Wade seems to have turned a corner. I'm interested in it. Aside from that, going to be a rough night for Ukraine. It's bad. Obviously there's plenty of sentiment behind Ukrainian fighters right now. Well, I mean, hell, some of the top ones have gone back to Ukraine to die for their country. Hopefully not. But, Helena Kolesnik won an iffy decision and shed tears, and I shed tears, and it was terrible. She's in for rough sledding against Larissa Pacheco. Martina Jindrova is going to get steamrolled by Kayla Harrison. So rough night for Ukrainian fighters too.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something. I'm stepping on all the toes on purpose. Larissa Pacheco is going to knock out Kayla Harrison in the finals. You can take that. I'm calling that. I am about 85% certain of it. By the way everything is going, Larissa Pacheco is going to ruin the party.
At 48 minutes and 31 seconds of this episode.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to actually, because I wish I actually cleaned up this room better. So when this clip goes viral, people don't think I live in a total pigsty. This is just my junk room. All right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope that happens. This whole dog and pony show with her, I've talked to Ed again about this. Maybe you guys, I don't know who our manager is. Whoever signed a contract that allowed for matching clause and while still going out there and calling out Cyborg, and then you get the PFL saying that they'll upfront all this millions of dollars to put on a pay-per-view. I want to go, motherfucker, you guys are on ESPN. Why aren't we doing Cyborg versus Harrison live on ESPN? Why? Who's going to buy a pay-per-view? There's going to be not a single name on the undercard. And I'm just baffled. The whole PFL thing is baffled me. I mean, I went to World Series of Fighting 1. I mean, I supported this company from the beginning. And I don't know what it's even turned into at this point. And I don't root for companies to kind of fold, but I feel like you're taking a spot on ESPN that, could make a company thrive. And all you've really done is kind of went cheaper and cheaper, and you're throwing around money like it's nothing. But I don't know. I just the Harrison thing blows me away, because how do you sign a contract that allows for a match? Bellator gives you an offer, then PFL matches it, and then you spend the next 6 months talking about how you want to fight in Bellator, or you want to fight Bellator fighters. You lose. It's just a clown show to me at this point.
Yeah. Interesting things happen when your manager is also one of the people in charge of the promotion that you are that you are part of. But it's another rabbit hole. So I think, gentlemen, I mean, we've got 10 minutes left before we wrap today. We need to spend that time talking about UFC 278. That's coming up this weekend, live from Salt Lake City. Matt, are you going to be in attendance?
No, I'm not making it out to this one.
Right.
Cage Warriors and then Bellator in the next month and a half or so.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, we've got an interesting three fights to top off the card here. And let's get into who you got. All right. I know we want to talk a little bit about the rest of the card, but if we got time at the end, we'll toss some love to a feature fight. All right. Aldo versus Dvalishvili. Jay, who you got?
Give me Jose Aldo via. I don't know if I can call Aldo by finish. I don't know if he has that in him at 135. Like, he's got, like I always talk about the various shades of power. He doesn't have the put you out power at 134. He hasn't shown it to me yet. He has the stinging, the good reaction power, but he doesn't have the lights out that he had at the time, or the body shots that he could just fold people over. Jose Aldo, I think in his entire UFC and WEC run, I think there's only been one fight that he's been taken down more than once. And that was the first time he met Frankie Edgar. And we know how he beat Frankie Edgar. Like, you go, okay, he took him down twice, but did you give Frankie Edgar a round? So, it's a tough sell. He's fought a lot of the best wrestlers that have ever done it. Period. The end. I don't see what Merab has other than a relentless chain wrestling that will fluster Aldo. Aldo's the kind of guy who will stop the shots and he'll make you pay. And I see that happening. I see him making Merab look silly. It won't be like when Bruno Silva was stumbling over himself trying to punch Gerald Meerschaert. It won't be that bad, but it will be, I'm going to actually push you to the side and you crash face first into the wall trying to take me down. So yeah, I'm going Aldo by a good clear cut, like a 30-27. I don't think there's going to be a time where we're going to be like, ooh, what about this? I think Aldo's got it handily.
Matt, who you got?
Man, I was going to go Dvalishvili until I just heard Jay talk like that. I feel like that there comes a time when things just start to go downhill for a guy. And yep. I know, and I just, maybe I jumped the gun a fight or two too early, but I feel like the chain wrestling could become a pain in the butt for a guy like Aldo, who probably at this point doesn't want to stay on the ground very much. And if he gets put on his back, I think that in a 3-round fight, man, when you can literally get a couple takedowns and win a boring decision, I just think that that's a possibility. And everything about me wants Aldo to win this fight, so he gets that title fight and kind of goes off into the sunset with just a miraculous career start to finish. But I lean Dvalishvili by kind of a boring decision, and I hate to say it, but that's kind of the way I think this could happen.
All right, Ben, who you got?
I would love nothing better than for Jay to be right. And I know we're short on time, so I won't rhapsodize over Aldo, but I would love Jay to be right. I would love this to be a vintage performance. I'd love him to remind us that, of what we must have forgot. But I see it more like Matt sees it, if not more so. I think this is going to be the nail in the coffin of Jose Aldo, at least of his title prospects at bantamweight, and maybe the last high note of the incredible new chapter he's written onto his already legendary resume. I think Dvalishvili washes him.
Ooh. Oh man, I'm I'm really not sure two very convincing cases on the opposite spectrum of what we're going to see on Saturday. I'm gonna lean toward Dvalishvili. As much as it pains me to say it, like I too would love to see Aldo prevail, and he's just one of the more exciting guys to watch, and always rooting for him. Despite my unbiased media hat that I like to wear sometimes. But man, it's time for it to come to an end. And Dvalishvili is such a ferocious striker. He's in the chain wrestling. He's kind of got all the pieces that I think are going to just disrupt Aldo's rhythm, and disrupted rhythm doesn't lead to good performances. A 3-rounder at that. So I don't think we don't have to worry about Dvalishvili being able to last to the end and keep up with a furious pace that Aldo could put on, or excessive movement. 3 rounds is going to be good for Dvalishvili. If it were a 5-rounder, I probably would lean Aldo, but it's not. So Dvalishvili wins the decision, in my opinion.
All right, I'll take it. You're not going to hurt my feelings, but you watch, boys.
Jay, I hope you're right. I really do hope you're right. All right, so we've got Paulo Costa and Luke Rockhold, a middleweight co-main event that has some implications other than comedy. So, Matt, I'll begin with you. Who you got?
I got to go with Costa. Packs too big of a punch. Rockhold's chin might be non-existent at this point. Now he's not taking a shot from Jan. He's not flirting with the 205 anymore, which is obviously a slightly different dimension than the 185-pound punchers. But I think Costa wins unless he goes out there and kind of has a performance like he did against Adesanya. If Rockhold somehow has some kind of revitalization of, his movement around the cage and stuff, maybe he's able to, surprise Costa. But I think they eventually get into some kind of phone booth firefight, and Costa hits him with something that turns his lights out or sends him spinning around the cage, and we get a stoppage there. So that's kind of what I haven't seen anything from Luke in the last few years to lead me to believe that he's going to beat any of the real top fighters.
All right, Ben, who you got?
You haven't seen anything from Luke in the last few years. Full stop. That's part of the problem. He's 37 years old. He hadn't fought in 3 years. He hasn't won in 6 years. And he left the sport with 3 knockout losses in 4 fights that were not TKOs. These were smelling salts. Do you know where you are? Knockouts, to the point that Bisping literally asked him, do you know where you are? Romero sexually violated him. A man who can't consent, you can't just kiss him, Yoel. That's date rape. He's lucky that Jan Blachowicz is such a nice guy. He might have woke up inside out. I don't know. I don't even know why he's coming back. It is so bizarre. Because the problems when he left were his chin and his commitment to fighting and his commitment to finding a weight class where he could continue to compete. None of those things have gotten better in the last 3 years. He's 3 years older. Chin doesn't fix, and he's going back down to 185, which he thought was the problem before. As batty as Paulo Costa is, one thing he can absolutely do is throw a punch. He's going to find Rockhold's chin, and he's going to detonate this man in the first round.
Jay, who you got?
An odd stat that you guys might not know: in his whole Strikeforce and UFC run, Rockhold has never absorbed more than 50 significant strikes, ever. Paulo Costa is a high volume guy, except for the Issy fight. We don't want to talk about that, but he is a swarm you guy. The only big issue here is, why the hell is this a 185 fight? Both of these guys have no interest in fighting at middleweight long term. Why don't they just both go at 205? We don't have to deal with the nonsense of, Actually, I think it's more likely the fight gets canceled than Luke Rockhold wins. That's how little I view his chances. That somebody misses weight by 9 pounds, and Paulo Costa looks like this on the scale, like, how could this have happened? How could this be? As he puts the wine bottle up there. You know, this is a really rough matchup for Rockhold. I get why he's taking him, because if he wins, he's right there again. But I mean, he's going to have to go walk. The only thing he has in his advantage, I think, is reach, and he doesn't like using that. So he's just going to walk face first into the wood chipper, and we know what's going to happen there. Angela Hill, Lupe Godinez.
Well, yeah. He's always been a better grappler than striker, and Costa's not a good grappler, but how's he going to get it there?
Yeah, this is one of those things where I mean, Rockhold has all the skill it takes to defeat Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa is technically not a very good fighter. Like he has the most haphazard striking. You know, despite being credentialed in jiu-jitsu and stuff, he barely ever wants to touch the ground. Like he is not a smart fighter, nor is he a very technically skilled one. Rockhold is one of the more skilled middleweights that we've ever seen. However, without a chin, without the fight IQ applied to the right places, without the life IQ to apply to the right places, this is a wash, man. Like, in order for Rockhold to beat Costa, he has to fight perfectly. He will not be perfect. Someone will find his chin at all times. His chin will be there. It will get cracked. Whether it's the first round, the second round, or the third, he is going to sleep, and it's going to look ugly. Paulo Costa will miraculously pull out another fight against someone who should be able to beat him. And that's kind of the story of his career. All right, fellas. So we got the main event, the welterweight title between Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards, who finally gets his shot. Gentlemen, who you got? Ben, let's start with you.
Actually, let Matt go first, just in case he's up against the hard time limit and needs to drop.
I'm going with Usman. I think it's going to be a good fight. I think Usman's a special talent. I think when the history books are written, he's going to be one of the top 10 fighters that this planet's ever seen. I can't really pinpoint how he's going to win. I might use his wrestling. He might land a big punch. I just think that he's a step above Leon Edwards, and all respect to Leon Edwards, I just don't think he has the finishing ability to take out Usman. And I feel like Usman's on a mission right now. It might be something small, but his brother winning the Ultimate Fighter kind of might be another thing to kind of keep him motivated, as far as, you know, little brotherly love and back and forth. The last thing he wants is a loss, you know, now. And you know, so I think Usman wins. I think he just outclasses him and wins like 4 rounds to 1. I don't think he finished. Both guys are durable. I don't think we get a finish here, but I think it's pretty clearly Usman picks up a win and continues his potential record-breaking run.
All right, Ben, who you got?
I love the ways these guys have changed in the last 7 years. It's gone from a one-dimensional wrestler with tons of athletic upside to one of the most complete martial artists and most dangerous strikers in the division, from a solid boxer with some deficiencies on the ground to maybe the best British MMA wrestler ever. But as much as both guys have improved, Usman has improved more. So unless he's starting to get old overnight at 35 with as many fights as he's had, I think he beats Edwards even worse than the first time. I could see there being a finish here, just because Usman, despite being so huge and obviously must have a monstrous weight cut, and despite the pace he pushes, has good cardio and grows in strength as the fight goes along. The 4th and 5th rounds tend to be his friends against people not named Colby Covington, who have even more insane cardio. I see him starting to roll downhill around the middle of the 2nd round and finishing Edwards in the 4th. Maybe drop some like club and sub, or drop some in swarms on the ground.
Jay, who you got?
I'm actually going back and forth about this. I'm not nearly as confident about Usman's chances because of what I've seen from Edwards. Granted, he lost the 5th round against Diaz. What we friggin' do? He won the first 4 by clear-cut fashion. So what's the debate there? I'm going to make a really bold prediction. Leon Edwards will be the first fighter to officially take Kamaru Usman down. And that's going to surprise a lot of people, because you think Colby the wrestler or Gilbert Burns the grappler, or, you know, any Tyron Woodley. It's going to be Edwards in like a tough clinch situation. He's going to trip him out, and Usman is going to be shocked. He'll be like, I can't believe this happened. Edwards is going to push him. I'm giving this a close fight. I'm going 48-47 for Usman. But I think that Edwards is this is the right perfect time for Edwards to get the title shot. He's right in his prime. He's looked arguably better than ever again, besides 5th round Diaz. I think he's going to start out slow like he always does. And like the 3rd and 4th rounds, he might win and be like, oh, what are we going to happen here? And then Usman comes back and takes the 5th round to win the decision.
Jay, I kind of want to just steal directly what you said and repeat it. I think that this fight is going to start off very close. And what's going to be the deciding factor is that insane cardio that Usman has, coupled with the tendency we've seen of Edwards too slow in that 5th and final round. We saw it against Cerrone, if I'm remembering that correctly. Yep. We definitely saw it in the Diaz fight. If you do that against Kamaru Usman, if you slow to that extent, like when Diaz like clipped him and he started pointing and gesturing to the crowd and all that stuff, Usman's just going to decapitate you with the right hand. Like I see that as a possibility for a finish, but either way, it's going to be a very close fight. And we're going to get our money's worth on that one. So give me Usman to retain the title. All right, gentlemen. I think that is a thorough analysis of the top 3 fights of UFC 278. Of course, Matt, we don't want to hold Matt up. He's got some things to do, and we don't want to continue the show without him. So let's go ahead and give Matt a shout out here. Big thanks for jumping on with us today. You see his Twitter handle right there, MMA Hawk 21. So go ahead and follow him. And of course, check out the Coast to Coast Combat Hour with him and Ed Carbajal. Ben and Jay, you can follow them on Sherdog.com. You know they're going to have plenty of fight week coverage, and we got PFL and stuff also, so it's going to be a lot of work. Oh, you're not doing play-by-play for
vacation,
PFL
baby?
Oh, I'm doing PFL play-by-play.
He's doing play-by-play.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, well, you're wearing a vacation time, so that explains the Hawaiian shirt, but you always wear
I almost wore a t-shirt just to be like, this is my vacation shirt. This close.
This close. All right, fellas. Well, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. Stay beautiful, stay positive, stay ready with a better background than I have. Dude, like our guest has got like a really nice background. It looks good. In case we go viral, this looks like shit. So stay sexy. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.
And don't be surprised, Mr. Falcons.
Yes. Oh God, I can't believe I forgot that, but it's all right.
I'm surprised that Shane Burgos is going to PFL. Stop recording.